This is a 15-minute restorative practice for your low back. You may wish to have a mat, a chair, and perhaps a blanket, especially if the floor is hard, to help you with this practice. If you're practicing on a carpet, you may not need that, although it's nice to have a mat or a blanket down, of course, if you're on a carpet. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do 2 yoga postures that are a little more active, and then we're going to do 1 restorative pose. Okay, although all of this is going to happen on the back. So please come down onto your back and just have your stuff close by, like have your chair close by. This one I can easily slide in. And the blanket, I'll show you how we're going to use the blanket in a moment. So we're going to start lying on the back and bring your feet up flat. Take a moment and find your breath. Just notice how you're feeling in the moment. How does your body feel? How does your breath feel? And what do you notice about your low back here? You may wish to just do a little tiny movement side to side with your knees. This can be kind of a nice massage for the sacrum. So just a little tiny movement. It's not a big twist, just a little movement. And then you may wish to take one knee up off the ground, doesn't matter which one, and continue with that little tiny rocking, kind of soothing movement. So you don't have to hug that knee in close to your chest, doesn't have to be far away, wherever feels comfortable. And then maybe a little bit of circles with that knee and go in both directions. And when you're ready, place that foot back down. And then we'll take the other knee up off the floor. And again, the same thing, just a little side to side rocking, kind of being kind to and massaging some of the muscles around the sacrum. And you also may feel it a bit in your low back. And then some circles here. And feel free to take some long breaths, maybe even exhale through your mouth. And let it go. Okay. And then go ahead and put that foot back down. Take a breath here to just a moment to pause. And then we'll take both knees up off the floor and do the same thing, side to side rocking, and perhaps some circles, little tiny circles. This is not about the biggest range of motion. It's about sending signals to the brain of comfort and easeful movement. That's what we want to get to here. Okay, so with the hands on top of the kneecaps, if that works for you. If it doesn't, you can slip the hands around the sides, but it's a little bit less aggressive to have your hands on top of the kneecaps with your fingers pointing towards your ankles. Take a breath, and then exhale fully from the belly as you draw the knees in towards your chest. Any amount. Again, you don't have to force the knees in. It should feel very comfortable. Inhale away. Then we're going to do that same action, drawing the knees in towards the chest, any amount the belly moves in towards the spine. So you're using your abdomen to help press the breath out. And do that again. And hey, I might be going too fast for you or too slow for you. So find your own pace with this. We'll do 3 or 4 more. You're just exhaling as the knees come in, really moving slowly and mindfully. The slow mindful movement is what helps to build what's called the skill of interoceptive awareness. So to notice sensations, how we feel, what movements feel good, what movements don't feel good. It is a skill. It takes a while to learn. And that skill can really serve you for the rest of your life. Okay, so when you finish the one that you're on, put one foot down. And then that hand, and then put the other foot down. And then that hand, and I did that very intentionally because rather than putting both feet down, often that's a lot kinder to the back. Now bring the soles of your feet together, knees out to the side, and you'll notice your low back will pop up off the floor. It's a poster. We're going to take a breath here. This one's particularly good for your sacrum. And as you exhale, draw the knees about 25%, about a quarter way closed. and then inhale and let the knees move away. And do that again. Draw your knees maybe a quarter towards each other. As you exhale, the belly draws in. As you inhale, the knees go away and the back arches a little bit. You don't want to overdo it. And do that one more time, about 25%. Inhale away. Okay, next we're going to take the knees about halfway towards each other. About halfway. And the lower back will go about halfway down, and then inhale and move the knees away. And do that again, about halfway. And this should all feel good, right? Nothing, you're not overdoing anything. Inhaling away. And one more time, we'll take those knees halfway. And by the way, if you're breathing faster than me, you're moving faster than me, or you're moving slower than me, that's fine. You can always do an extra one, right? Or one less, it doesn't matter. It's not about the number of repetitions. And this time will come about 75%. And as you go 75%, your feet might need to adjust so that you're not overdoing the ankles. So I'm just letting my feet go from together to slightly, the outsides of the feet go slightly apart. They just kind of slide. If you're on a sticky mat with bare feet, that's hard to do. It's easier if you, I've got my toe socks on, but it's also easier to do if you have a blanket underneath. So you're welcome to bring a blanket underneath so you can slide a bit. And inhale, knees open, and then exhale, and they come about 75%. And then just let them go to about halfway. Put your feet flat now and let them go about halfway out. Breathe in and then close, bring your knees all the way together, or maybe just like 1 degree apart, just a little bit apart is okay, so that you're activating the muscles on the insides of the thighs. So inhale about halfway, exhale all the way, and also you're pressing your low back down for this one. Again, inhale about halfway. And exhale all the way. Okay, and when you finish that one, separate your feet a little bit, let the knees come together to rest, feet apart, any amount that's comfortable, so that you can rest. So just take a moment here and rest and feel the low back just kind of being long behind you. You have this feeling of lengthening in the low back, the belly sinks a little bit. You can even put your hands on the belly because that helps sometimes to feel longer in the low back. Take a few breaths. Okay. Now, next, you're welcome to roll to the side and press yourself up. And my recommendation is you use a blanket. And I'm going to unfold the blanket on my mat. I should have gone the other direction so you can see. Okay, here. Unfolding my blanket on my mat here, so that this is just giving me a place for my sacrum to rest, because we're going to be here for about 7 or 8 minutes, and then I'm bringing my chair in close so that the legs of my chair are actually on the mat, so I have a little bit of support here. And then to come into this pose, you want to be on the other side of your mat or your blanket, like I'm on the outside of it. And then I put that shoulder down, the shoulder that is closest to the mat, and scoot my hips close to the chair so that I can just roll and let my legs rest on top of the chair. For some people, you can do this on a couch. The problem is a lot of people will try and come into this pose from like back here and put the legs up the chair, and then they're like kind of scooting to try and get your legs closer. So it's much easier if you just have your butt close to the chair and your shoulder on the floor, and then you just roll, and then you're there. Okay, so I'm going to guide you through about the next, it's going to take us about 5 or 6 minutes, 6 minutes here to guide you through a little visualization practice with the legs up. So to begin with, make sure that you're comfortable. You might want to put a sweater on or another blanket on if you're chilly, right? So you should be comfortable here. And then the lower legs resting comfortably. If your heels are not resting, you take another blanket or a pillow and tuck it underneath, because you want the heels to feel grounded here, okay? Now, the next thing is to notice from your knees all the way down into the hips. And so you have like these are your muscles, you know, these are your quads, and you've got the quads and the hamstrings and adductors. And you know, there's so much here in the thighs. And then you have that big bone, the femur bone, right? From your knee coming all the way down into the hip socket. So I want you to visualize that bone for a moment. You're welcome to close your eyes as you do this, by the way. Visualize that big bone and visualize the weight of that bone, and it's sinking down into the hip socket. So you feel that bone as it connects into the pelvis, the weight of it kind of sinking, and that sinking feeling starts to create kind of a snuggling into the hip socket. You're sending neuromuscular signals down into that hip socket of a groundedness, if you like, and relaxation. So there's softness that's happening here, and weight. The weight can be an incredibly powerful signal for the neuromuscular system to relax. So the next thing to notice from that weight, if you really like that weight, by the way, stay with it longer. Okay, then we're going to go from there and notice how that weight starts to spread from the hip sockets into the sacrum. So the sacrum is that flat bone that's at the base of your spine, and it intersects with your pelvis, right? So hips to the sacrum, and create a feeling of kind of spacious openness. There's like a widening that happens, if you like, here. And there's a softness, spacious openness, widening, and softness, as if the weight from the thighs and the femur sinking down into the hips creates an openness at that intersection between your spine and your hips and the sacrum and the sacroiliac joints. Let that open, let that get softer. Let your exhale be nice and long here. Next, we will start to trace with our mind that softening openness from the sacrum up into the lumbar. You start to feel a little openness in the sacrum, softness, and slowly start to work your mind up your lumbar spine. So first, at the top of the sacrum is that last vertebra, big vertebra, lumbar 5, L5. And visualize lots of space between L5 and L4, the discs being spongy and healthy, good shock absorbers. And then from L4, move to L3. You don't have to get it perfectly right, just visualize it, right? Where it is, you're just slightly moving up your back into L3. Same thing, the disc is spongy, healthy, doing its job. If you don't have a disc in one of these places, or you know that the disc has been injured, you know, that's a great place to visualize healthy, open, bringing healing energy into that area. And then you're traveling from L3 up to L2 with that same kind of openness, freedom, and ease. And from L2 to L1. Now take your mind back to your knees. Go from your knees down your femur bones into the hip sockets. A sense of weight, groundedness. And then from the hip sockets, moving across the low back to the sacrum. And from the sacrum up through the lumbar vertebra. And we're just at 15 minutes. So I'm going to end the video here. You are welcome to stay in this position as long as you like. And I recommend that you do a little shavasana afterwards. Thanks so much for joining me.